Union County opens up a decades-old cold case.
Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson disappeared in 1971. The two then 17-year-olds were on their way to a party near Beersford and were never seen again. Today, investigators were tipped off to a car found in rural Union County that they say is related to the case. Kettleland's Ben Dunsmore joins us now live from Union County with the latest. Ben?
Yeah, some major developments in this cold case here today. On May 29th, 1971, 42 years ago, two Vermilion juniors were on their way to a party at a gravel pit in northern rural Union County when they disappeared without a trace. Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson disappeared, never made it to that party, never made it to their destination, and nobody's really had any hard and fast evidence until today when a passerby in northern Union County between Beersford and Elk Point discovered four wheels of a car sticking out of Brule Creek underneath a bridge at 301st Avenue today. The sheriff's office was called this morning and authorities and investigators converged on the scene. I believe that we have some video from the scene that they've been working at ever since this morning when that tip was called into the Union County Sheriff. The Division of Criminal Investigation, who's been working this case for the last 42 years, as in any missing persons case that has been unsolved, was there today. The Union County Sheriff, the Clay County Sheriff, as well as State Department of Transportation was there with excavators trying to get this car out of Brule Creek. They've tried to pull it out and it started to fall apart, so now they're doing it piece by piece. They've identified the car by the license plate and the hubcap. It is the car the two girls were riding in that night. Here's what Union County Sheriff and the South Dakota Attorney General had to say about the case this afternoon.
We're in the process of excavating material out of the vehicle now and determine what it is in fact we have.
We believe it has to do with respect to that disappearance of Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson, but we're not going to say any further details until we've had an opportunity, as the sheriff's indicated, to excavate the vehicle, to take it in for forensic testing, to ascertain more information.
As I said, they did identify that 1960 Studebaker as the one that the two girls were riding in, Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson were riding in that night, by the license plate and the hubcap. It matched the description of what the South Dakota Attorney General's office and DCI had in their case files. So they know it was the car that those two girls were riding in. And actually, Pam Jackson's family is in the area this weekend. They were in the area for a funeral of a 102-year-old relative who passed away. They were in town over the weekend, and the Attorney General says they were actually at the scene this afternoon and that they're hoping to bring closure to the families. Now, if you remember back several years ago, back in 2007, a Union County man, David Licken, was charged in connection with this cold case, and he was actually had several appearances here at the Union County Courthouse, but later those charges were dropped after it was discovered that a recording inside the prison was not his voice, and those charges were dropped, and there was no real evidence to tie him to the case at all. The Attorney General would not address whether they've questioned David Licken today or whether they've talked to anybody else involved in this case. He said they're not talking about any sort of criminal investigation. All they want to do is process this scene. They're pulling out the pieces piece by piece, examining that 1960 Studebaker. It's been underwater for more than 40 years. They're examining that piece by piece, and he said they just want to give both of these families of Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson some type of closure. So he's not addressing any sort of criminal proceedings right now, or if DCI has had any contact with any possible suspects in the case. He says this discovery is about the families right now who are looking for closure 42 years later, and it's looking like they're going to start to be able to get some more answers to some of those questions that have been plaguing the DCI and investigators for the past 40 years. Investigators were back on the scene today in Union County where a car was found in connection with the disappearance of Cheryl Miller and Pam Jackson 42 years ago. Someone made the discovery yesterday morning. Investigators say the license plate and hubcap matched that of the car that the two teenage girls were riding in 1971 when they disappeared without a trace. Today, investigators are seen with bags going into the scene, trying to start the process of collecting evidence. Yesterday, investigators brought in a large excavator to try and pull the car out, but they say the car started to fall apart after being underwater for more than 40 years. So now it appears that that DCI agents are going in with gloves and bags trying to collect evidence piece by piece in order to find some answers in this case of these girls that have been missing since May 29th, 1971, when they were on their way to a year-end party at a nearby gravel pit. Authorities say this vehicle was discovered just a half-mile away from where the girls were supposed to be. Coming up later today in KELOLAND News, we'll have more details on the investigation and this case as it continues to unfold.